morning and welcome to the first of a series of curriculum unit. Curriculum Chit Chat is the name of the program, and we have a distinguished panel with which to discuss some of the topics here. Today, like I said, it's a series, and we will be talking regularly on matters and topics that affect curriculum development in Dominica and possibly the region, because it's OECS inspired, according to Mr. Gist. All right. This is the OHPC and Stakeholders Consultation, right? And today we'll be discussing the OECS harmonized primary curriculum. And for that, we have, like I said, an esteemed panel, Mr. Gist, the head of the curriculum department, Mrs. Sorrento from the science, Mrs. Barron from the OECS Pearl, Candia Robinson from curriculum as well, and from Pearl also, Mrs. White Christian. Okay, guys, there's quite a lot to say, but you can again repeat a little introduction, but let's get on to the substance of the OECS harmonized primary curriculum. Give us a little, where are we really with this?
Okay, basically we are in the process of reviewing the OECS harmonized primary curriculum. This is a curriculum that was developed around 2002, and it was meant for the islands in the region to be using to guide the teaching in schools. However, I should mention that in 2005, Dominica moved away from the OHPC and developed the own national curriculum guide. This guide was built off the learning outcomes and the standards of the OECS harmonized primary curriculum. So while there are two distinct curriculum, there are many aspects. They are very similar. In fact, there is about at least 90 to 95% coverage of the OHPC, and in addition to that, our national curriculum, there are components in our national curriculum that you will not find in the OHPC because Dominica felt it necessary. So topics like agricultural science, you will find that in our curriculum, but not in the OHPC. And also we have an aspect of technology in our science curriculum, again, which is not in the OHPC. But the thing is, with this program funded by the Global Partnership in Education through the OECS Commission, we're in the process of reviewing that curriculum. So there are 4 main countries involved in that: Dominica, St. Lucia, Grenada, and St. Vincent. We are in the process of reviewing that, and there are a series of activities leading up to that revision. We will talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I thought,
but this is basically the.
I thought it was a hefty introduction. You following from Mr. Gist, science, you see your part in it as we go along?
Yes, we are working in the science department to make sure that the science curriculum is relevant and up to date. And it's like Mr. Gist says, our science curriculum is aligned with the OHPC. And so we're just reviewing it just to make sure that teachers are well equipped with what they need to teach our students.
Great opening statement. This is Baron Pearl and OHPC.
The Pearl, as we said a few days ago on the education program, a pearl is a pearl is a pearl. It's a gem of great price, and this pearl.
It's going to add value to our curriculum.
This pearl, yes, is going to add value to our curriculum, right, Charlie?
Yes,
it's going to add value. It's going to increase equity and equality in our education system. It's affording us the opportunity in the OECS to help achieve the vision, which is outlining the OECS Vision 2020-2024, where we look to acquire better quality of life for persons in the OECS. And I think we agree that the better quality of life starts at the foundation. If we don't have a full foundation at the primary education level, then the structure is going to collapse. So that is where we're heading with the OHPC, to get the foundation right.
And we could have a better member of the panel. She's the one who determines who passes or fails.
I don't know. Let's not say it like this. Yes, assessment, but we need to also understand that how are we going to determine whether or not the students learned what is intended for them unless if we assess. We assess ourselves as teachers, we assess the students, and we allow students to assess themselves as well. So with the OHPC and all this, we have to ensure that the curriculum is doing what it has been intended to do, and we have to ensure that our students are prepared. And how do we do that? We have national assessments, and our national assessments are built again on the national curriculum. So the grade 2 national assessment, the grade 4 national assessment, the grade 6 national assessment are all assessments and tests developed from the objectives and concepts in the national curriculum. Additionally, I must say that with the OHPC, we have what is known as CPEA, okay, which is done in the region, the different countries do the CPEA. The Caribbean primary exit assessment, sorry. Okay, and we have done some aspect of the CPA before, we have piloted before, and realized that our national assessment here is almost parallel to what they have done. But again, we are working on reviewing and developing it and trying to a certain extent formulate an assessment framework that would work with the review of the curriculum.
Okay, Mrs. Christian, she's saying there's a method to this madness. Clear enough.
Well, we know curriculum is not madness, you know, and basically what we are hoping is that the first step is people understand the importance of curriculum. Parents have to take charge of their students' learning. How do you do that? You do that by letting them understand that every subject, there is a guide that teachers follow. Every subject, there are topics that students must complete before they are assessed nationally. And that will take us into the stakeholder consultations, which we are hoping to have as part of the OECS pool. Because we want to ensure that all our stakeholders, parents, those in the public sector, the creative sector, everyone, the students themselves, everyone understands that the curriculum is important. We want to ensure that when students leave any OECS country, they can go to any other of those and work with basically the same qualifications, the same content, the same knowledge, you know. So that is basically where we are heading when it comes to the OHPC, and that is why we will soon be having some stakeholder consultations in the next 2 weeks to inform persons more as to, you know, what we expect and what we expect them to understand.
And I like that you are saying that, because that should maybe make us realize the importance of togetherness, especially Mr. Gis after Maria.
Yes.
Remember what we observed after Maria in terms of students migrating to other countries and having to be enrolled in schools in St. Lucia. I remember especially there was a great migration of students into St. Lucia and so on, yes.
Into Antigua.
And so on. So it would mean that if every country has this similar curriculum, the same curriculum, any child moving from one state to the other, they do not lose out on anything. I think Mr. Gis was having a discussion prior to the meeting when he was talking about free movement. Basically free movement of knowledge, free movement of skills, free movement of attitudes. So there is we have realized that there is a need for this harmonized curriculum.
Okay, so I'm learning and I'm improving. So from madness to organized chaos to structure. Mr. Gis, back with you. You've heard what those esteemed panelists have said. Let's put it all into context now. I suppose there's a policy, there's a plan, program. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So there is a plan. There, because like I always say, if you don't know where you're going, you will never know when you get there.
Exactly.
So we start off with a plan, and the plan, first of all, is to come up with ideas as to how we develop that curriculum guide. Because first of all, I should say that anybody can write a curriculum. Anybody can write a curriculum. You can send anything. But then, if you look at the curriculum that is just written,
Let's stop you. What is a curriculum, Mr.
Yeah, we're coming to that. We're coming to that. Anybody can write a curriculum, but you want to write an effective curriculum. So what you want to do is have a plan as to how you're going to develop that. So with the OHPC, this program, the third program, what we plan on doing is having, as Charlene said, a series of consultations. So we want to know what should go in the curriculum. First of all, we want to know what is in the curriculum now.
Yeah.
Is it effective?
Yeah.
And I should also mention that there was no evaluation done. Although the curriculum, the OHPC is actually 20 years old, there was no evaluation done on that. So you want to know now, what is in the curriculum? Was it effective there? How was it developed? Who developed it? What was the process? So we want to know that, and we want to fix that. The content of the curriculum, the goals of the curriculum, was it met? So what we are doing now, at this current moment, we are actually reviewing the existing OHPC, the existing OHS Harmonized Primary Curriculum. And remember we said it's a plan. And it's not just a plan, it's a process.
Yes.
So currently we have over 70 educators in the region, 16 from Dominica. What we're actually doing is reviewing the existing curriculum, and to help with this revision, the 70 people who will be reviewing the curriculum actually enrolled in a course with the ECJBTE, that's the Eastern Caribbean Joint Board of Teacher Education, and UE. So we are currently pursuing a course on curriculum evaluation, which will actually help us to properly evaluate this curriculum. Once this is done, or I should not say once this is done, simultaneously, we'll be having some stakeholder consultations. And for Dominica, we have planned that for the next 2 weeks, I believe.
Yes,
Yes,
the
during
13th,
from the
14th, and 15th of
yes.
June, yes.
So what we are going to do in this, during these consultations, we will be seeking the input, asking them, or in fact, explaining to them what this process is. We'll be explaining to them what is in the curriculum, the existing curriculum, and we'll be getting their input as to what should be in the curriculum. So we will be looking at
that animal you're talking about. What exactly is the curriculum? Because you're referring to
Okay, a curriculum basically is a roadmap for teaching and learning. In a curriculum guide, you will find the goals. What is it that the students should learn? What is it that the teachers should be teaching? Maybe not how they should be teaching, because that is, every teacher will have their own style for delivering something. But the curriculum basically is it's a guide to help teachers get the best out of the children. Let's just put it this way: a curriculum is a document that will help students learn. Okay? What is in the curriculum? We have learning outcomes, we have goals, we have learning outcomes, and we have success criteria. We have the standards or the success criteria. It will tell us, it will give us an indication as to, what the students should learn and whether they have gotten that at the end of a level, a particular grade level.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the curriculum for K, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it could go up to, in fact, up to university level. Some say curriculum, some say syllabi. It's just either.
Sounds good, sounds good. So it's basically a living document.
It is a living document.
Yes.
And the mere fact that it's a living document brings up the point that a curriculum is not cast in stone. For example, let's take the social studies curriculum, for example. We have we teach children that today the Prime Minister of Dominica is Roosevelt Scary. The Minister of Education is Honorable Octavia Alfred. Tomorrow it could change. the Prime Minister could step down, or we could have elections, and there's a new Prime Minister. So it's a living document.
It's just a social reality.
It's
just a social reality.
So, a perfect example would have been, again, I mean, you might say she's only bring up Maria, but after Maria, what did we do when it came to the science and the social studies in terms of incorporating disaster risk reduction and strategies
so
into
it's
the
a living
curriculum?
document. It's actually a living document, which means it should be reviewed continually. So that is why right now we are doing the OHPC, because like I indicated, as I alluded to earlier, the curriculum was developed over 20 years ago, the OHPC.
Okay, great. Living, flexible, responsive. Science will play that role, yes?
Yes, absolutely. When I think of curriculum, I think of two words, scope and sequence. So scope is content, what are we teaching them? And then the sequence is the order of that teaching. And so there has to be some organization to the curriculum, because certain topics require prerequisites. So you have to know, have a foundation for a particular topic before we can go on to deeper levels of that topic. So to me, when I think of curriculum, that's what I think about. And it definitely is a living document. So a good example in science would be the fact that some years ago Pluto was no longer considered a planet. And when we went to school, we learned that there were 9 planets. And so that has changed. My very educated mother just served us 9 planets. And now it's different. Now we stop at nachos. So it definitely is a living document, and we want it to be specific. We want our teachers to be able to use it without difficulty, so that they have everything that they need to do a wonderful job in the classroom, and our students can be successful.
I will also talk about, as opposed to IQ, the curriculum, generated IQ, now we're talking emotional intelligence and the curriculum. So, that is a complicated thing. We're talking futuristically. Do you want to talk about, or any others wanted to comment on that? Not necessarily. But futuristically. But let's get back to the policy and that's another program.
And that's another thing. And in that curriculum, we'll be addressing. It will address, when we have reviewed it, the development of emotional intelligence, and it will also address something that employers have spoken about for years now in the Caribbean, that our children lack critical thinking. Critical thinking skills. And when we have revised that curriculum, it will allow our students to develop critical thinking skills, and not just in terms of yesteryear. They'll be able to think in real time and to think futuristically, because research has shown that our education system as it is now, curriculum, is not even preparing our students. We're preparing our students for life yesterday, when the employment market and stuff like that is actually, say, 2 decades in advance. So we have to get our students ready for that, and revising the OHPC will give us that opportunity.
Mr. Robinson, excuse me. So, critical thinking versus problem solving. That's where we're heading.
I wouldn't say versus problem solving, because problem solving does include
I deliberately put it that way so you can clarify.
But yes, that's true. And I mean, one of the things that we have, well, again, even part of the curriculum, yes, it's true that it gives you content that needs to be taught. But also, as Mr. Key says, not necessarily tell teachers or dictate to them how to teach, but there would be suggested activities. And obviously, some of those activities would involve what is happening now. So that would also include the use of technology. And that is where critical thinking comes in, because we talk about the world being dynamic and education being dynamic, but it is more so now than ever with the advent of technology. I mean, things change by the second, by the hour. Things just, and so we must ensure that we incorporate some aspect of technology. And we are doing that, and we saw that during COVID-19, where teachers had to now step away from the talk and chalk and incorporate online platforms for learning. And even with our grade 6 national assessment coming up, we are going to do at least pilot one paper as an online paper. And so with all this, you cannot assess something if it has not been used. And so that is why we need to incorporate the use of technology within our curriculum system.
Yeah,
And that takes us to why the OHPC, the re-evaluating of the OHPC is so important now.
Yes.
Because including technology is very important, and that is one of the programs. That is why one of the things that the police is focusing on is to ensure that with this new OHPC, that the students will not necessarily have to be in a physical classroom.
Yes.
Because we have seen what COVID has done to us. Okay, this new experience, so it will incorporate all of these new learning strategies, all of these new learning spaces, that if we have a natural disaster tomorrow, it will not really affect our students, that the curriculum will lend itself to that, and teachers will be able to continue teaching online using whatever platforms, and every child will receive the exact same content, and the objectives will be met. Because what we saw happening with us with COVID, we all know that a lot of students did not grasp. Teachers had to come up with their own creative ideas, their own creative ways to reach the students. But now we want to give them that tool
And
to facilitate the process.
And to also include training of teachers as well, and leaders, because it's one thing to have the curriculum, but we need to ensure that the stakeholders, especially the teachers, are very much qualified in producing or at least implementing that new curriculum. And so if you're talking about technology, it means that we have to start training our teachers in technology, and teachers would also have to professionally upgrade themselves, because I mean, we can't do everything for everybody. Within ourselves, we have to professionally develop ourselves. So it calls for a lot of training and what have you. And even training of parents as well as to how they can help their, because as Ms. Christian said earlier on, parents need to take ownership of their students' learning, their children's learning. So it calls for a lot of people. It's not just the education officers, it's not just students, teachers, principals, but it also means that parents have to be on board, the community have to be on board, including all the business places out there, because they use technology. And so even when things are learned in a school, because why do we teach children? As we say, we will try to put them out there in the market to ensure that they are literate, numerate, and they have the skills, the requisite skills for whatever job they're going to do. So it means that even when we are looking at the curriculum, we also have to look at what the outside world needs. And so again, that's why we have the term stakeholders, because it also includes persons that are outside of the educational system, but there will be a loop.
And so with that being said, we're looking at what we're saying here. All of this ties in neatly with information that was disclosed in the OECS education report, the reform on education, and then we're looking at an evidence-based curriculum, right, Mr. Gist? And we're looking at assessment reform, and all of that we say is that that particular OHPC will be the basis for transforming education to serve as the main tool for getting us there. And like like Shalyn said, when we look at what happened with COVID-19 and what happened with Maria, we have to have a curriculum that allows the education system the flexibility to have more individualized education, more digitally based education, like where we can have project based education, where whatever it is that we're doing, the student is front and center. His or her needs are more relevant, and that is where we are. So it will allow us more opportunities for project based learning. It will allow us more opportunities for more authentic assessments, journaling, instead of the pen and paper test, right, Mr. Gist?
And in fact, just to add to what you're saying, we are speaking of curriculum development, but what we should really be speaking about is curriculum and assessment development, because too often we speak of curriculum and we speak of assessment like they are two distinct. In fact, curriculum and assessment should be part of teaching and not something that is separate from teaching. So in the classroom, you will find a regular in the regular classroom, a teacher will teach, and at the end they assess students on what was taught. What we are hoping to do is integrate, marry the two, and show teachers that assessment is not separate and distinct from teaching. In fact, it should be one thing. So that is why we're speaking about project-based learning. Project-based learning.
authentic.
It starts from the very first day. When students come in, they are assessed. They give a diagnostic assessment. Based on the results of that diagnostic assessment, teachers would set up a learning plan and assess the students using projects, using portfolios, have the students build something, and keyword, have the students build something.
Build
Have the
something.
students
Child-centered.
do
Right,
something.
child-centered.
Not the parents of the students doing something,
Yeah.
but the students doing
Yes,
something.
and we cannot get away from the importance of that, because at the end of the day, the learning is for the student to internalize and be able to actualize that out there in society.
And we have a culture where our classrooms are teacher-centered.
Yes.
So, for example, you go to a classroom and the teacher will be teaching. Yes, she's well sequenced and what have you, but she's the one who she's the one who's speaking
Center
all the
stage.
time.
Yes.
There's little room for students to actually ask questions, little room for them to actually explain their answers, or even for them to ask questions of each other, or for them to discuss among themselves. It's always the teacher saying
Yes.
and allowing students to just say yes or no, or I'm correct, or you are right, or you are wrong. But again, what we want is to ensure that we incorporate some level of formative assessments, okay? Where it is, as you said, it is ongoing from the beginning to the end of the class, that students are actually showing that they are learning by the discussions and so on.
So just coming back, just backtracking a little bit, where we mentioned that curriculum development, this whole exercise is actually a process. So as I indicated earlier, we are currently reviewing the OHPC and our own national curriculum. We have teachers, educators being trained under the ECJBT, that's the Eastern Caribbean Joint Board of Teacher Education, and UE. The next step, we're going to have some stakeholder consultations. After the stakeholder consultation, that's where the real work begins.
Yes.
Where we actually get content writers for each of the subject areas. And for this project we are looking at 4 subject areas: mathematics, social studies, language arts, and science. So once we have done the content, once we have put in the content for each of those subjects, we're going to have we're going to go into the implementation stage, and the implementation stage involves piloting. So we are going to develop, we're going to send it out to stakeholders, we're going to send it out to schools. So they're going to pilot it, they're going to use the curriculum to teach and give us feedback.
What went well?
What went well, what needs changing. We're going to go back to the drawing board, and once we go back to the drawing board, we're going to fix up whatever, based on the results, we're going to make the changes, the adjustments. Once this is complete, we're going to have teacher training. So Ms. Robinson spoke about training. We must train teachers, not just the teachers. Well,
The principals
teachers
also
will
are
get the
important
bulk
to
of
be
the
trained,
training.
yes.
But then education officers will not be in the school, will not be able to be in the school as much as we would like. So there will be training for principals.
Yes.
And not only that, but we also want parents to take a greater role in the students' learning. So the curriculum is expected to be digitized. So there will be, it will be made available to all and sundry. So parents will be able to take this guide. We will have training for parents also. So parents will know, okay, we take this document, how we can help our children at home. So there will be a lot of training,
So Mr. Giss, you underscoring that this is supposed to be a very disciplined activity.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Discipline and Charlene, Kande, Janelle and myself, we're actually doing the curriculum and assessment course. And even from that stage, it requires discipline.
You require something.
No, it requires a lot of
Everybody.
discipline.
It requires
And
a lot.
everybody else.
Yes.
It requires a lot. Yes.
So this whole exercise, and not only discipline, but it is very expensive. Curriculum development is actually an expensive project. So that is why I really would like to take this opportunity to thank the global partnership in education because they are spending a lot of money.
Yeah, through the OECS.
A lot
Yes.
of money through the OECS.
Quantums,
Yes.
Mr.
Yeah,
Quantum.
What
What kind of money?
We're talking like millions.
Millions.
I'm not
Tens
at
of millions.
liberty. Yeah, tens of millions. I'm not at liberty to disclose the funds, the actual
the
amount, because
quantum.
I really do not know.
But it's
it
millions.
is a lot of money.
I appreciate that.
Let's just for the sake of the program here and for our persons looking, that's how expensive it is. The program itself, the entire Pearl program is worth US 10 million. Curriculum and assessment is taking the largest chunk of that. By far the largest chunk. We have other areas, but curriculum and assessment is taking the largest chunk. That should tell you just how important it is that we, the Global Partnership for Education through the OECS, in collaboration with our member states, would see fit to spend that kind of money
Yes.
on the curriculum.
It tells us how
It tells us how
important
important
curriculum
curriculum is.
And that is why, again, I will go back again to the consultations. That is why those consultations are so
And
important.
so important.
And that is why we
Yes.
really want the stakeholders to come forth.
So the success rides on how much.
The success rides on the consultation. So, for example, on the
But-
13th, we have consultations for students, for principals, and so forth. And the 14th, we have for our creative sector, agriculture,
What creative
and so
sector
forth.
though?
All creative sectors, we're looking at the cultural
Cultural
division,
division,
we're looking
yes.
at the DFC, we're looking at all of those involved in the cultural aspects.
Yeah.
And creativity, our musicians, all of those are part of the creative
Yes.
sector.
But
Our artists.
are we developing? But we are not developing. See the people we are consulting, but we should let you know now that we are not developing the creative arts curriculum.
No.
It's going to be integrated. So I stopped
Yes.
a little bit
Yes.
just to show
That's fine.
that our curricula, each of the curricula, we're going to do. We're going to have cross-cutting curricula.
Yes.
So
yes.
Science will have cross-cutting
Themes.
with
Yes.
mathematics and social sciences and language,
And language
arts and
arts,
so on.
yes.
Okay, so we are actually.
We are developing a curriculum
We'll come
that's
back to you. We'll come back to you,
holistic.
continue.
of course.
It's a
But
holistic curriculum.
every single year, as head of curriculum, every single year, I am approached by so many organizations who feel that this should be in the curriculum, that should be in the curriculum, and so on. But our day is short, and we cannot put everything. Well, in Dominica, we did not have the ability to put everything. But now, with this curriculum, with this approach, with this new OHPC, the new OECS harmonized primary curriculum, we will have the opportunity. So that's why we, the stakeholders, we are consulting
important.
everybody.
Yes.
So, come to tell
So
us.
I can probably even start again from the top first. For example, on the 13th, we are hoping to have consultations with boards of trades, DIC, NDFD, and all of those.
Yes.
Principals and teachers of primary schools. Youth groups, so all youth groups, whether it's a church youth group, whether it's a community youth group like JCI, Rotaract clubs, all of those church groups, Pathfinder, Scouts.
Yes.
We are hoping to include all of those as part of our consultations. On the 14th, like I said, the creative sector, then agriculture, so important for science. We have noticed that a lot of our students, for them, they just think of science as just being chemistry or biology, going into the labs and so, but they don't realize that agriculture is so important in Dominica. So all of those, so we will have our persons from the agriculture sector, our farmers who sometimes we don't even give a lot of attention to. These people will be part of the consultations. Our parents, our PC executives and so forth, that for us is very important. And then on the 15th of June, we are hoping to target our sisters and brothers from the Ministry of Education. So not only our education officers, but also some of our public servants as well, who work within the public service. Yeah, so that is basically where we are heading as it relates to the consultations. They will all be done via Zoom. So we'll be sending out official invitations to those persons, and then we'll open it. And if there are any people, other persons who would like to be part of the consultation, we welcome them as well.
I think the
Alright.
Bike Riders Association.
Everybody. Even the bike riders, because the Bike Riders Association is important because we do teach health and safety. Okay, so safety, because a lot of our students ride bicycles with no helmets. All of that is important. And these little things, it's true they are part of HFLE, but they are also part of so many other things. How is a bicycle created? Science, it's important. And a scooter, all of these all of these are important. So we really want to ensure that when we do this thing, we do it well. And that Dominica is very well represented, because all the other OECS countries are also doing the same. Okay?
Yeah, we're coming close to the end, about 5 minutes of an exciting topic. Something came up in there, and it's your baby as well, I think, Mr. Gist. Technology. Is that curriculum going to be technology-assisted curriculum or technology-enabled curriculum? You can.
We probably said this answer, so let's just say, let's just say that this curriculum will enable digital transformation.
Yes. And in addition to that, there will be, and we have already started in Dominica. Dominica has already taken a step towards that. And although it's slightly, well, it's actually not directly related to this project, but Dominica, we have already started with digital learning, or digital content, I should say, in that we have contracted Notes Master Caribbean, and we have over, I think it's over 20 teachers developing curriculum for Notes Master. This will be launched very soon. I think in the next month or so we will be launching this Notes Master platform, where we have both primary and secondary teachers in the 4 core areas, and French. They have developed content, so a teacher or student can actually go to this Notes Master platform, science, whichever topic from the curriculum to the writer select it, and have content and activities on that. The OECS is actually developing a same.
Say that, yes.
They're actually developing
Yes.
An OECS repository where we have teachers and educators from the region developing content and putting that in.
As
this
a matter of fact,
repository.
this is ongoing. This is known as the OHPC Content I Learn Initiative, and then we actually have a launch of what we call DECI, the Digital Education Capacity Strengthening Initiative, and that will be on the 10th of June from 10 o'clock to 11:15 a.m. The registration should be open. We have shared the links and stuff like that. So all of this works hand in hand. So this, let me say, this is, and our teachers in Dominica are actually developing content with teachers from other member states as we speak, developing and doing quality assurance for digital content.
So basically, to answer your question, it will be both assisted and
enabled.
Yes.
Yes.
And in fact, think of it. The government of Dominica recently distributed tablets to every student.
Yes.
COVID-19 has forced us to rethink our teaching and learning strategies.
Yes.
It has forced us indoors where we have to use technology. So any new curriculum must be digitally enabled, and and we know Dominica is the buckle of the hurricane belt.
Yes.
And we know that anything that happens, anytime we have a hurricane, we know that Dominica it's possible that we will be affected.
Very possible.
So we have to rethink digital learning.
And then remember resilience. Remember we have been
Yes, we're
promoting
building,
a resilient country.
Building resilience.
So on that note, we're in the hurricane season, and we're talking curriculum, and we're wrapping up the program as well. So we can do a final hurricane tour of the topic. We'll start with, would you like to go first?
I went to start first, so Mr. Gis can take the lead this time.
These are the closing comments, your summary, your conclusion.
So basically, we are going to be revising the curriculum. We have no intention of sitting in the office and developing a curriculum.
No.
That's never been done this way. But one important component that we have been maybe not focusing on enough is the stakeholder consultation.
Yes.
This time we want to hear from every single
Stakeholder.
every nook and cranny of Dominica. We want to hear from the boys on the block. We want to hear from the quote unquote big shots. We want to hear from the employers. What are you looking for from employers? What should be in our curriculum? we want to hear from the youth groups. We want to hear from everybody. And this is going to be a consultative process. The development is going to be consultative. We're not going to sit down alone. And we want, by the time we're done, that we have a document that is the envy of the rest of the world.
Sounds good. Closing comments?
I would say, in conclusion, we're going to work very hard to make our science curriculum engaging and interactive so that we develop those 21st century skills that our students need to be successful.
And from my end, I'm just saying that at this point in our development, at this point where we have been forced, like Mr. B said, to rethink our strategy, the stakeholder consultations, and we're hoping that everybody, when you get your invitation to be a part of this consultation, that you get on the bandwagon, that you jump in and you let your voice be heard. So at the end of the day, when we have this organized, this OHPC harmonized primary curriculum, that it is reflective of what our society needs and what our students need to be the most successful citizen, not just a Dominican citizen, but a citizen of the region, an international citizen, as we move along.
Well, the more fashionable word, because we're talking plural most of the time, not necessarily citizen, but consumer. But we'll talk about that again.
Yes, and as Mr. Key said, curriculum does not stand by itself. It is curriculum and assessment, and so we are ensuring that we formulate an assessment framework that serves to determine whether the curriculum serves its purpose.
Yes, and
Have a final word?
yes, my final word.
And we've heard quite a few buzzwords here.
Yes.
That final word is going to be good.
It's going to be very, very simple.
Yes.
We just want everybody to be on board. And we are just hoping that the curriculum unit will continue to do what it does best. Ensure that the curriculum is done well, ensure that we engage all we have to engage, and we are hoping that our students at the end will continue to emulate our mandate, which says, and just like the OHPC mandate, which says that every child succeeds. And that's what we want, that every child at the end succeeds.
Okay, a very successful program. We're talking Chit Chat with Education and Curriculum Unit, and see you again next time. It's a regular program. Good night.
Okay.
And